Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking all about how to build relationships that can help you convert into clients. So, I'm going to be talking first and foremost about ways that you can build genuine relationships online. I'm also going to cover what I call closed and open-ended questions. Then I'm going to talk you through soft, medium, and hard touch points. And last but not least, I'm going to tell you the four types of people that you really want to have a message ready for when people come your way. So, first and foremost, let's talk about what it looks like to build relationships. When I talk about building relationships, particularly through DMs, and we are going to be talking about how to build relationships online and in person, what a lot of people have the misconception with is they think that you're going to be the kind of person that's online and is saying, hey, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. That is not relationship based sales. I just want to myth bust that right now. When I say I help people sign clients through social media, particularly using relationships based sales through DMs, that's what people think I'm talking about. And here's the reason why you are probably concerned that that's going to be you, that you're going to come across as salesy and as smarmy in the DMs is most likely because you have gotten DMs like that. You have gotten DMs where people have said, hey, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. And that is the tactic that they are using for you to either get more followers, sign a client within this week, hit 5K or five figure months within the next day. And what happens is that is very off putting. That's because they are not using gradual touch point based sales. People are just selling to you directly based on the numbers game. So, a lot of times you'll see this for people who are just sending as many messages as possible saying, you want to get 1,000 followers, you want to do this. And I want to encourage you that unless you are a business coach selling business coaching, most people are not getting messages like that. My husband, because I now have a husband, my husband Rob is an average person on Instagram. He doesn't get randos messaging him. The reason you are getting those messages is probably because you posted some content that alerts people to say, hey, I own a business and you can sell to me. So, first and foremost, unless you are selling to other business owners, people are not going to be sending you messages that say, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. They just exist on the gram and they're not getting those kind of messages. The other time that I see relationship based sales gone bad, let's just say, is when people are selling a product. Now, when you are selling a product, this is a numbers game as well, but you are selling a service. People need to build that know, like, and trust factor. They need to get to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. So it's very different than something that's like a product based business. I see this happen, and I have no ill will against anyone who is in a multi level marketing setup. But as a service based business like a coach, what you are doing is something that's very different. So, the way I see relationship based sales that are kind of being taught through things like multi level marketing, which again are typically selling a product, is saying, hey, oh my gosh, it looks like you're doing so well. Love that dress. Also, have you thought about starting this kind of a business? Those are typically ways that it apparently work really well for product based sales, and they don't work with relationship based sales when you are selling a service. So these are all the things that relationship sales is not. You don't want to be selling people saying, "Hey, I hope you're doing what like tell me about your life, tell me about like all these things. Now I want you to join my thing." You are literally going in and you are going to be asking people questions to create a different to build relationships over time that create enough know, like, and trust that then gets people to buy from you. Now, when we are thinking about creating conversations online, what is the inspiration for this podcast is I was trying to create engagement and create conversations online for a very important reason. 2024 there was a study that I've harped on a bajillion times for this podcast called the 7-11-4 rule, where there was a study that found that in order to sell a service online, you have to get 7 hours of content, 11 different touch points, and four different platforms, or just pieces of a platform, like on Instagram, a story, a post, a reel, and a DM, let's say. Those are the things that people needed to see to buy. Now, 7 hours of content doesn't mean that I want you to go out and do 7 webinars in the next week and then say, oh, I've checked off the box for 7. It isn't necessarily exactly hitting 7 hours for every single person, but you want to make sure that you are creating a long relationship. People need a lot of information from you in order to buy your service. Again, like coaching, that is a relationship based business. You would be meeting with someone every single week. So the market is showing that people want to get to know you first. They want to be a part of your sphere. Think about it like dating. People don't want to just like go on a trip with you after meeting you, a 6 month trip with you. If they are just meeting you for the first time, people want to get to know you a little first to see if, hey, I would actually like to go on a trip with this person. So that's the first piece of the reason why you want to be doing relationship based sales. And just knowing that you need to have 11 touch points. You're not just going to say, hey, buy my thing and people will buy. You need 11. You need to build up a long term relationship with somebody in order for them to buy most of the time. So you need to be thinking, how can I have this conversation and how can I get the conversation to really continue in a way that actually brings in clients? The other thing that you want to be thinking about is AI. So, since AI has been really at the forefront from 2024 into 2025, now, in order for you to get engagement, I was just coaching a client today and she was saying, I used to get a bunch of people viewing my stuff. Now on Facebook, I might get 5 likes, which is actually more than a lot of my clients. A lot of them are like, I get 0 likes or 1 like. And they're still signing clients with 1 and 0 likes, by the way. They are getting 0 likes. I get like 1 to 2 likes on my posts, and I've still crossed 1 million because that's not the way I use social media for sales. When I'm thinking about AI and how to compete against AI, there are, if you're thinking the organic route, the way that Meta is going, or any form of social media, if you are thinking like a social media designer, their purpose is to keep people on the app longer, especially for things like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even LinkedIn. That is the platforms where you can think about how to get more people engaging with you, because a bot can post and ghost. A person will actually continue a conversation. So what you need to do is you need to be thinking like a creator, thinking not like a creator as in like a content creator, because we are not influencers. You are experts with influence. You want to be thinking like the people who've created and designed the apps that you're utilizing to market your business. And you need to be thinking about ways that you can keep people on the app the longest. So I shared about a long time ago about the 10-10-10 method, and that's liking other people's posts, engaging with stories, and commenting. And the issue with that is that in engaging with hashtags as well. With that, are you going to keep people on the app for a long period of time? Maybe to do a response. Maybe that will take a somewhat a period of time. But what really keeps people on the apps longer is having to think through a message. So DMing people is the way that the algorithm is going. And also bots can comment on other people's stuff. Bots can spam DM. Bots can like people's stories like crazy. Bots can engage with hashtags. How are you standing out from AI is the question I want you to ask, because that is what's going to be the ticket to getting the algorithm to push your content out more. And again, it's not so that you can become an influencer. You don't need more followers. You don't need a bunch of likes, but you do need to be engaging with people in order for the algorithm to see, hey, I'm not a robot, and also get you into the algorithm of the people that you want to be with. So the question becomes, how do I create conversations in DMs that actually lead to fruitful conversation? How do I keep people on the app longer so that I can show the algorithms that I am not a bot? I am a real person that is selling a real helpful service that other people want to utilize. So that's where closed and open ended questions come in. And I'm going to be talking about this in the context of online and in person. So, what prompted me to do this podcast today is I saw a bad DM that I sent back in 2023. There was a girl that followed me or I guess followed me again. Maybe she unfollowed me and followed me again. I'm not sure. But I saw this message from June of 2023 that said, "Hey, thanks for following. Send me a question or let me know if you have any questions." Okay. How many of you have done that? First and foremost, I'm mocking myself because that's a terrible question to ask. That doesn't keep people engaged. What in the world is she supposed to say? "Hi, Megan. I'm so glad I followed you. I'm really struggling with social media. Please help." No, we've just met. I want you to imagine how awkward that would be if you had done that in person. You would, like, let's say somebody comes up to you at a party and you say, "Hi, let me know if you have any questions. Bye." It's weird, guys, right? You would never ever do that in person, but we get weird online. So I'm going to help you to stay normal online and actually have really good conversations. And it's just the way you would do it in person. If you're listening to this podcast, I mean, I can be really socially awkward and also really like need a lot of alone time. I feel like I'm an extroverted introvert, which would shock a lot of you, but I don't get a lot of energy from having a bunch of conversations with people. It can exhaust me. I get a lot of my energy from chilling out by myself, scrolling on cat videos. That's where I really thrive in my life. But I know that this is a part of owning a service-based business is I can't just like open up a physical shop and just expect people to come in. You guys have heard that analogy a million times before if you listen to the podcast. But what you need to do is you need to ask a question about them. Shocking. I know, but it really isn't that it isn't rocket science. It isn't rocket science, but so many people don't do it. Is instead of saying, "Hey, let me know if you have any questions," which is just weird, or saying, "Tell me what your biggest struggle is in your business." Like, what in the world? Are people just going to be like, "Oh, I'm so glad you asked. I would love to scale to 1 million in the easiest way possible." People aren't going to go for that. You need to ask them a closed ended question that is simple for them to ask. Now, what is a closed ended and open ended question should be your next question for me. A closed ended question is a question that has a very simple answer. It is something people don't really need to think about a lot, and it is something that is related to your business. So, for you all, I want you, every single one of you, to think about what is a closed ended question that will help me engage with people for my business. Now, the best way to do this is, especially when I'm sending a DM online, I like to go in and I like to send a video message and a written message. I had recorded video messages before, but I think what really does the trick is if I see somebody following me and I customize this and actually say their name, then they're like, "Oh, Megan's is a real person." And you guys, if you aren't at like multiple 6 to 7 figures and you don't have 50 people DMing you a day, you've got time to do this. I would make 30. What I tell my clients is I have a system for them where they engage with people every single day and they all have a closed ended question and they all have a sequence that they go through in order to DM their people. So if you need help with that, you, of course, let me know. I was like, if you need help with that, we should work together. But I want you on this podcast, as you're just listening to this, I want you to think about, okay, what is a closed-ended question? What is something that I can ask the people of the gram that would actually create an engaging response? For instance, I say, "Hey, Anne, it's so nice to meet you. I am so glad that you're following me on here. I love helping people to grow their businesses. I actually started my business back in 2020 and I fell in love with coaching, really struggled through it. then really figured out how to work the algorithm, learned how to run social media, and now that's what I do is I help other coaches and other service-based businesses run their businesses. And I was wondering, it seems like you've been posting a fair amount. How long have you had your business? Closed-ended question. How long have you had it? It shows that I'm personable, that I'm a real person. I'm showing interest in her business and I'm asking her, how long have you been in business? And then she says something like, I've had my business for 4 years. And I say, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So those are closed ended questions. I like to go through a few of those closed ended questions and ask people just like little bits of information about themselves. And then I go into open ended questions. These are things that are harder to answer. So for me, I would say something like, hey, I actually started my business because I wanted to be a mom and I wanted to be able to work from home and have the flexibility to have an income. And that's actually why I started my business. Why did you start your business? Do you see that I'm including shared vulnerability? That's how you build relationships. You don't want to just ask people questions about themselves because it sounds like a weird interrogation. Don't be a weird person and be like, how many years have you been in business? What have you done? Why did you start your business? Who do you help with your business? Like that sounds weird. You want to have a shared relationship. You want to go back and forth. So that's how I do it online is I start with a lot of closed-ended questions, some open-ended questions, and I just play around with it like I would in person. For you, if you are going to in-person networking events, the other thing that prompted this podcast was instead of the fact that I was doing really terrible DMs when I first started and learned about this is the first thing. But then what I would recommend is you asking open-ended questions if you are meeting somebody in person. So if you are talking to somebody in person, this can be like, hey, it's so nice to meet you. I'm Megan and I love helping solopreneurs grow their business using social media. How did you get started with your business? I actually started mine because I was a life coach and I found that social media was really hard. Finally figured it out, and now that's what I help other people do. Tell me about yourself, though. I want to hear about you and your business. Do you see how I'm interested in them more? And I'm sharing a little bit about myself too. So they get to know me. They're like, hey, we either are on the same page. I really like this energy. I feel like you're very conversational. I feel like I can talk to you very easily. Or people are like, you're not my style, and they move on. But in-person events, you want to ask a lot of open-ended questions because they become conversation starters. Okay. Now, for you all, if you're going to a networking event, I want you to research the heck out of that networking event and I want you to find out if there's a theme. I want you to see if you can find out other people that have been to that event before so you get a feel of who is there. And what I would do is I would write out a list of 5 to 10 conversation starters that you can have either about the event, about the people that are going to the event, questions that you could ask that aren't weird but related to your business. This also, because we're doing closed ended questions, isn't are you a dog or a cat person? What is your favorite color? Those are weird. They have nothing to do with your business. I don't ask people typically, I'm not at, but you can come up with like creative ways. Like if you online are selling something that's like a holiday guide, you can be like, hey, I love helping people stay balanced with their businesses. And I actually came up with a holiday plan. Do you want me to send it your way? That's the only time when you want to ask something that's like contextually like a weird, like kind of random question. You don't want to just ask weird questions like, what's your favorite country to visit? Like, I don't just go and ask that because I'm not a travel coach. I am a business coach. I want to have a list of questions that I can pull out and just use that to be personable. But I want you to think about like that engaging, like the things that I coach my clients on are creating that engagement, creating that buy-in. You also want to like, not that like you are attacking people, but you want to disarm people. Typically, when you're talking to people online or in person, people might be like, oh, what are you asking me about? What are you saying? And that's why we'll talk about like in a second the 4 messages you want to have. But you want to be like a normal person, not a like person that's like, hey, I only need you to buy my stuff. Of course, that's the goal is we want to create a relationship that could convert in a sale, but that's not the only reason you're talking to them. So don't be weird about it. And if you feel like, oh my God, I'm so weird about it, please again, reach out and I've got you. So that's the second reason is I had a person that was going to an in-person event and they were like, how do I really start conversations and move this forward? The next thing that you want to do is beyond the open and closed ended questions, you also want to have a touch point level of, and I'm not even kidding, this is like literally the technical term, like a touch point level of intensity, we'll just say. And there are three different types of questions that you can ask and ways that you can have different touch points. Literally, it is called touch points. Look it up. It's not something I made up because it's obviously a weird word, but roll with it for me. So they have soft, medium, and hard touch points. So you probably do this naturally. It just feels weird when you're selling a service-based business. But in conversation, you don't just say, hi, I'm Megan, buy my stuff. Hi, I'm Megan, buy my stuff. That's what's called a hard touch. It's weird. Nobody would ever do that when you are talking to somebody in person. So what you want to do is instead of just going straight to the hard touch, which is not at all appealing for people, you want to go in and do a soft touch. Think about soft touch, small talk. That's the way I like to think about it. So you want to be having these soft touch points, doing this small talk, having this casual conversation. And you want to, again, think about like a Christmas party. If you celebrate holidays like Christmas, if you go into a party, you don't just like go in and say, hey, want to go on a trip together? No, that's weird. You go in and you say, hey, I'm Megan. It's like, how do you know the host? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, what appetizer? Did you bring an appetizer? Oh my gosh, you got to try my spinach dip. It is to die for. It's literally Lipton spinach dip, but it's amazing. It's a fan favorite. It's my mom and I's like signature app. But you go in and you just start the conversation. You get people like to talk about themselves. You're like, tell me about the appetizer. Oh my gosh, you made a taco roll. Let me see it. I'm like, I got to try some of this. Um, and then you ask them. So there's small touch questions. You just talk to people about themselves, you get to know them, but you want to do it in a way that's related to your business. So again, thinking of questions that are related to what you do is really helpful. Then you want to go in and you want to ask some medium touch questions. So then you can go in, and if you're thinking about doing DMs, this is where you can ask people questions about the things that you are posting about. So for me, since I'm doing a literal podcast that will have a worksheet that goes along with it, I'm going to ask people, "Hey, are you getting a lot of DMs? If you're not, you got to listen to episode 86 of my podcast. Here, let me send it your way. Why don't you think you're getting?" And then I can ask them a medium touch point question, which is something that's like a little bit more like asking them about something that is a struggle for them and saying, have you ever gotten like people reaching out to you? Or is this something that like people were reaching out to you and they stopped? And then you can get more data. Notice how I'm asking them about a struggle. It's a closed ended question, it's a medium touch point, but I'm just trying to help. I'm not selling them something yet. I'm just sending them stuff that could be really helpful for them and be like, hey, do you have like a question that you ask people initially? I found that that's really helpful. Since you are, and then they say, no, I actually don't have a question that I ask people. I'm like, oh my God, well, you are a functional medicine specialist that helps people who are in perimenopause. You should totally ask them, like, are you in perimenopause or in currently in menopause? Easy question, but it gets the conversation going. You see what I'm saying? It's like it's just an easy way that you start to build relationships, and that's a medium touch point. And I give people coaching ahead of time in the DMs. That's what the medium touch points are. I'm like, okay, have you tried this? I noticed that you didn't have this here. One of my clients who actually just signed with me, I was like, hey, I noticed that this was in your bio. Have you thought about putting this in your bio instead? I feel like that's more so what you've just told me that you do. And she was like, wow, that's amazing. She's like, do you help with more stuff like this? And I was like, sure do. And then she signed up. So for you, when you're thinking about having really wonderful, fruitful, productive relationship-based sales conversations, you're moving people to something. The other thing that you want to do is you want to be able to ask the hard question sometimes. So typically I'll ask people if we're thinking about a hard touch, this is typically inviting people to things like webinars that I do, or I'm actually asking people to do a consult. And this is after I've gotten to know them very well. I know a lot about them. And I would never, ever, ever, ever just go straight for a hard touch. But I would say, hey, just a heads up, I do think that you would be a really amazing fit for my program. There is no pressure at all, but if you're interested, the way I typically get started working with people is we do a 60-minute consult where I'll talk to you about where you are now, where you want to be, and if it would be a good fit for us to work together. Again, no pressure, but here's the link. Otherwise, I'll definitely reach out to you about future events or another thing that I think could help you. But I give them an out and I say, hey, you don't have to book, but if you want to, here's a link. If you don't see any times that work for you, you let me know. Otherwise, I'll be in touch about other helpful stuff. But I'm not going in and being like, hey, buy my stuff right away. I'm not being salesy. I'm just saying, hey, here's an out, but I genuinely do think this would be a good fit for you. Now, if you are in a situation where you're doing something like a webinar, typically I'll be like, hey, just a heads up, I'm doing this webinar. Here's the link. If you or anyone you know could use this, send it their way. And if you have any questions, let me know. And then after the webinar, I usually do some sort of limited time offer where I do a small bonus. Like for instance, with the mastermind, I usually do a double your income one-on-one call. So I'll say, hey, love to just a heads up, there's a double your income call that is for anyone who signs up for a consult by Wednesday. Here's the link to book. Otherwise, let me know if you have any questions and I'll keep you posted about future things. Again, giving people an out. Now, we got the closed and open-ended questions, soft, medium, and hard touch points. The last thing that you want to do is you want to think about having some pre-written messages for people so that you can at least engage the algorithm in some way. There are typically three main ways that you're going to be reaching out to people. And these are the three that I have my clients create pre-written at least messages for. They send a personalized video, but they send a pre-written message. So the first of which is what most of you guys, 100% of your audience, when you start your business, it's all going to be friends, family, and acquaintances. That's your whole audience. It's all going to be people that you know. So instead of just ghosting them and ignoring them, you want to tell them, hey, I've started a business. Notice that I'm not, and I'll tell you the way I like to do it. It's not like, hey, I love that your child graduated from school. This is so great. Also, do you want to buy my thing? No. That is a weird way. That is weird sales. That's not what I'm teaching. It's not relationship-based sales. What I do is I say, hey, I hope things are going so well. Just a heads up. I don't know if you've seen my post recently, but I started a business for people that I do this here. And um, wow, totally just blanked out there. Let me restart that. Hey, it's like, hey, I hope you've been doing so well. I started a business for these people to help with this specific thing. Here's a link to book a consult. That's the way I typically get started with people, where I meet with them and I talk to them about where they are now, where they want to be 6 months from now, and if working with me would be a good fit. Feel free to let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, I hope you have a fantastic week. Purely referral based. Yes, it is a hard touch, but I'm just asking them for a favor. I'm like, hey, I started this business, would love to bring some people in. If you know of anyone who could use this, let me know. Now, when I did this, guess what happened? People were like, I actually would be interested in this. What do you do? And that's how I brought people in. So that's what I would like for you guys to do. Again, it's probably going to be a lot of your audience is friends, family, and acquaintances. Send them the referral message and then let it be. You don't need to go back in and say, also, I love your cat, and then start to engage with them in a weird way. They might want your thing, but they will tell other people. And then your job, if you've got a small audience, is to go out and find new people. That's the main thing that my people do is they give that referral message, and then I teach them how to go and find new people in their audience. So that's what I want for you, people of the podcast. The second message that you want to do is you will eventually, inevitably, get followers that are not friends, family, or acquaintances. You don't want to send them that referral message. What do? You send them a closed-ended question. Just like I talked to you about earlier in this podcast, I would think of a question that's related to your business, and I would ask these new followers a question about themselves. Why are they here? But not why are they here? Because God, if I get another, it's like, how did you find me? It's like, what? Why would somebody want to respond to that? It has nothing to do with them or helping them. It's totally about you and you just getting data. Don't do that. Instead of doing that, I want you to go and I actually want you to respond, ask people about themselves, get some buy in, ask them information about them. So that's the second one. You want one, friends, family, acquaintance referral. Two, new followers, closed ended question. Number three, for those people that say, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, you can use them. Great news. So those are the people of the algorithm that are messaging you, and you could message them right on back and say, hey, I'm good. However, and you might not be good. I mean, like you might actually want their service, but most of the time it's like, I want 1,000 followers. It's like, no, I'm actually okay. However, it's like, here's what I do. I'll refer anyone who I know that wants 1,000 followers. And if you want to here's my information about how to book a consult, send people my way. So you say, hey, I'm good. Here's what I do. Here's who I help. You get started with the consult. Here's the consult link. Send me your link and we can be referral partners. Have a great day. But then that uses the people who are doing those kind of sales that clearly have never listened to my podcast, then they need to do more relationship based sales. And if you're not interested, you can easily pivot. And then if you are actually interested, I have a whole podcast about how to do collaborations that I will put in the show notes. I think it's episode, um, I'll find it. It was like collaborations. Maybe I didn't do a podcast about collaborations. I will do one in the future. I'll put it in the list. But I would say that that would be something that would be really beneficial for you is to go through and say, hey, would love to collaborate if they are actually someone you want to collaborate with. The only other message that you would potentially include would be if you're doing a webinar saying, hey, thanks for following. I have a webinar coming up. Here's the information. It is more of a hard touch, but you can also do that for the weeks that you're doing a webinar. So, with that being said, those are what relationship based sales is not, how to start up a conversation with closed and open questions, how to move the conversation forward to a hard touch point. And by the way, if they don't bite, then you go right back to soft. And then you start engaging with them in their stories and you say, hey, it's like, love this. Tell me more about this. It's like, I noticed that you're doing this. And then just build it back. Pretend like it never happened. Don't be weird. But I've had people that I've asked them to do a consult before, never booked, never booked, never booked. And then finally they book. So don't take it personally. Just re-engage. You want to go back and re-engage. And last but not least, the 3 types of messages that you want to have ready. So I hope this has helped you to build relationships that actually lead to sales. And I can't wait to see you in the next episode of the podcast. Make sure that you download the worksheet that goes along with it because it'll definitely include what to say and ways that you can script your own things so you can be ready to have awesome relationships in the DMs and in person as well. Have an amazing week, guys, and I'll see you in the next episode.